The wind blew sharp across Winterfell's ramparts as Ned Stark raced through the corridors, urgency in every footstep. He had just witnessed something impossible. Bran, his son, had willed a raven to speak to him. The bird's call had echoed in his mind, not in his ears. No child could do that, not in this world. Yet here he was, stunned, heart-hammering. He knew instantly. Magic had awakened in Bran far earlier than any old story would suggest. If the Lannisters found out first, or worse, whispered rumors began, the cost would be ruin. He had to act fast. Before rumor swallowed them all, he burst into Bran's chamber. The blue twilight of dusk cast long shadows along the walls. Bran sat on his bed, fingers tracing a carved wooden eagle. He looked up, eyes wide, pale as moonlight. "Father, I didn't mean to," he whispered. His voice trembled. Ned closed the door behind him, steadied himself. He forced calm where panic threatened. He leaned over, gently touching Bran's shoulder. "Tell me exactly what you saw, Bran, every detail," he said, voice low but firm. Bran's eyes flicked to the window, then back. I saw the raven. It spoke in my mind. It said words, 'Winter is coming, beware the Queen's wrath.' And then I felt cold in my bones." Ned's heart lurched. "When?" he asked, though he already feared the answer. "Tonight," Bran said, "when I was drifting off." Snow drifted outside the window, a silent reminder of how fragile their world was. Ned recalled Maester Luwin's warnings about whispers of magic beyond the wall, the old tales of greenseers and wargs. He closed his eyes for a long moment, thinking. Then he faced Bran. "You mustn't tell anyone, ever. Not even Mother. Not Robb, not Catelyn. Not even me unless I ask." Bran nodded, tears threatening. Ned continued, voice softer. "Your secret is safer with me than any castle gate." He stayed with his son through the night, listening, coaxing. He whispered old stories he had dismissed as children's fables, about wargs and the children of the forest. But he also warned Bran of danger. The Lannisters, the small council, rumors. Powerful men will hunt such things. You have to hide this gift until I find a way to use it. Bran's sleep was fitful, dreams haunted by raven wings and darkness beyond the wall. Ned watched him, stripped of certainty as a father, but driven by resolve. By dawn, Ned had resolved to consult Maester Luwin covertly. He could not risk sending word to King's Landing, or even writing notes in the open. He would walk to Luwin's tower in the dead of night. He had to understand, is this power a weapon, a curse, or both? And how to control it before enemies sensed it. That day at breakfast, Ned's face was stone. He spoke sparingly. Catelyn noticed the tension. He turned his gaze away before her eyes. Robb and Sansa talked about small matters. Arya too. But his mind was far away. Only Bran's presence made his chest ache with fear and hope. Every so often, he glanced toward Bran's empty chair, longing to reassure. When the halls quieted, Ned slipped away under the pretense of reviewing grain stores. He slipped into Luwin's study, candles lit. The Maester looked up, surprise flickering. "My lord?" he asked. Ned closed the door, locked it behind. He spoke in a hushed tone, voice urgent. He described what Bran had done. At first Luwin was skeptical. "Magic, my lord?" But as Ned spoke with detail, the Maester's face grew pale. He fetched old scrolls, tomes of old legends, of wargs and greenseers. Together they pored over ancient records until flame flickered low. They debated whether this was warging, seership, or something entirely new. Luwin cautioned risk. "If the small council hears, they will kill or lock him away." Ned nodded. They made a plan. Keep Bran's gift secret, train him slowly, test control only within Winterfell's walls, and avoid drawing attention. Ned returned to Bran's chamber late that night. He sat beside his son, put a hand on his head. "We will teach this," he said softly. "Together." Bran nodded, hope and fear mingling in his eyes. Over the next days, Ned watched closely. He spoke only to Luwin. He observed when Bran fell asleep if ravens circled near Winterfell. He fed Bran stories of the woods, of animals, of hearts and minds. He tested small experiments, asking Bran to sense the raven again. One night Bran's lips curved. "The raven returns. It says, 'Treason blooms in King's Landing.'" Mr. Raven's call echoed barely in his mind, yet Ned felt its weight. Ned's mind raced. If he used this gift wisely, if they controlled the narrative, they might change the fate of the realm. He could foresee betrayal, intercept plots, see whispers before swords. But the danger loomed. A new kind of war would begin. Shadows and secrets, not just armies and steel. He began arranging secret watchers, old loyal men sworn to silence. He ordered ravens be watched, messages encrypted. He intercepted some letters. He fed false rumors outward about unrest beyond the wall. In the great hall he kept face calm, neutral. No hint of fear. But at night he studied maps, pores over rumors, hand on Bran's door. Within weeks, word of suspicious letters delayed small decisions at court. The small folk whispered of a wolf lord who sees more than he speaks. Stark-Lannister, in King's Landing, frowned at some intercepted messages. Cersei wondered whether Varys's web betrayed him, all while Ned held close a secret that could reshape Westeros. One dusk, Bran woke screaming, visions flooding him. The red comet, blood on snow, betrayal in a chamber in King's Landing. Ned burned with urgency. He sat with Bran, pressed his arm. "No, you must rest." But Bran shook his head, eyes blazing. "I see her, Daenerys, the dragons. Fire, red flame. She will come." The name struck Ned like a dagger. He held his son tight. Outside, a raven cried. Ned knew the quiet between storms had ended. The war would come not just with steel, but with sight. And they would not face it blindly. Not face it blindly. In the following days, the weight of Bran's revelations deepened. Each vision came faster, clearer. No longer fragmented whispers, but images sharp as blades. Ned stood in his solar, unmoving, while Bran described visions of a lion and a stag, locked in silent battle atop a crumbling tower. He spoke of fire beneath the Red Keep, of a weeping girl with silver hair holding fire in her hands. Every word Bran spoke chipped away at the old rules Ned had lived by. Honor, duty, truth. Now he faced a world of shadows and omens, where silence meant survival and truth, if spoken, could destroy. Ned sent trusted riders to the outposts under the guise of hunting reports, but they carried coded missives to old allies, to Howland Reed, to Sir Barristan Selmy, and even to the aging Black brothers at the wall. His messages were simple. The wolves have seen what others haven't. Silence is survival. None of them mentioned Bran, not yet. But for those who knew him, the meaning would be clear. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, strange rumors began to swirl. Varys's little birds chirped of messages failing to arrive, of ravens flying with blank scrolls. Tyrion noticed it first, parchments reaching the capital marked with the hand seal, but filled with odd metaphors and proverbs. "The tree remembers what the fire forgets," one said. "Wolves dream when crows sleep." Littlefinger chuckled at them, calling it northern madness. But Cersei did not laugh. She watched. She waited. Back in Winterfell, Bran's abilities bloomed like wildfire. He no longer needed to sleep to feel the animals' minds brushing against his own. In the Godswood, he sat in silence for hours, his eyes distant. Sometimes Ned saw a flock of crows spiral high above the weirwood tree, circling for no visible reason. Bran said nothing, but his fingers twitched as if conducting something unseen. Ned began a brutal ritual. Every night, he and Bran would meet in secret, and Bran would recount everything he had felt, every image, every sound, every flicker. At first it exhausted Bran, but soon he grew stronger. He began to focus, to control. He could seek rather than just receive. And that changed everything. One evening Bran turned pale as ash. "Father," he whispered, "there's a man. He's in a tower south of the Neck. He's talking to a bird." Bran shook his head. "No, he's talking through the bird. He knows I'm watching." Ned felt his stomach tighten. "What did he say?" Bran hesitated, then spoke. "He said, 'Tell your wolf the spiders are awake.'" Ned froze. Varys, it had to be. A message, through Bran's own channel. Proof the game was shifting. Proof someone was watching back. Ned doubled security. He closed the castle to all outsiders. He sent even Robb on a hunting trip with a full guard, claiming it was training. But the truth was fear. Fear that if anyone uncovered what Bran could do, the boy wouldn't live to see his next name day. But knowledge was power. And Ned could not ignore what Bran brought him. He saw flashes of Catelyn in the Vale, preparing to bring Tyrion to trial. He saw Baelish whispering in Lysa's ear. He saw the dagger in Joffrey's hand, not the assassin's. The truth hit Ned like a winter storm. The attempt on Bran's life wasn't just an act of fear. It was a cover-up, a misdirection, a game piece sacrificed to conceal greater lies. And still Bran watched. He told Ned of Robert's hunts, of boars drawn too close by false trails, of poisoned wines prepared in cellars below the Red Keep. The vision was clear. The king was not just being manipulated, he was being led to slaughter. Ned made a choice. He would go to King's Landing, but this time armed not with honor but with hidden truth. He would not trust Cersei with warnings. He would not write letters to Stannis. He would go with Bran's visions in his mind, and with a quiet force of loyal men riding behind him. He would play their game, but on his own terms. He sat Robb down, gripped his son's shoulder. "You're the Lord while I'm gone. But your brother is the key to everything. You protect him before you protect me." Robb blinked, confused. "But what?" Ned cut him off. "No questions. Just watch. And if anything happens to me, you ride for White Harbor and you bring the North together. The South doesn't care if we burn. We must care for ourselves." Bran sat quietly in the corner. He was no longer just the broken boy. He was something more, something ancient, something the South would fear if they ever knew. As Ned rode out, a blizzard began to creep across the north. Bran watched from the tower window, eyes glassy. "He will be tested," he murmured to Maester Luwin, who stood beside him. "And some will lie, but one will betray their own blood before the sun sets on the crown." Luwin didn't understand. He simply nodded. Meanwhile, across the narrow sea, Daenerys Targaryen sat by a fire, her unborn child restless within her. The flames danced, and in their flicker she saw a direwolf standing in snow, eyes like ice, staring at her through the fire. She gasped. "What is this?" She whispered. The old woman beside her, a healer from Ashai, frowned deeply. "The North remembers," she said. "And now it sees." Ned arrived in King's Landing beneath grey skies. He wore a new face, not cruel but cautious. No open truths, no noble warnings. He met Cersei with polite coldness. He shook Joffrey's hand with a slight bow. He kept his letters locked in a steel box, opened only at night when he listened to Bran's words echo from a long-distance raven's cry. He began making moves, quiet ones. He watched Ser Barristan closely. He tested Varys with false rumors. He baited Littlefinger with a lie about Dragonstone. And all the while Bran whispered in his sleep, "Baelish lies in the garden. The queen meets a stranger at midnight. The wine is ready." He saw it now, every thread, every scheme. The real war wasn't coming with swords. It was already here, fought in shadows, in dreams, in the minds of children. One night Bran gasped awake, his body shaking. He looked through the raven's eyes and screamed, "Father, they've killed him! The king, Robert, is dead!" Ned stood, sword half drawn. The wine, the boar, the hunt. It had all unfolded just as Bran had seen. The timeline matched. The whispers were real, and now the throne was within reach of vipers. Ned faced a choice sharper than any blade. Reveal Bran's powers to gain an edge, or keep the secret and fight the Lannisters with half the truth. Outside, thunder rumbled. The Game of Thrones had just changed forever, and this time House Stark had a seer in the dark. The small council met in the shadow of Robert Baratheon's death, cloaked in veiled grief and sharpened ambition. The air in the chamber was colder than usual, but not from the weather. Ned sat at the long table, his hands folded tightly, his face impassive as stone. He had seen this moment in Bran's whispers days ago. Yet living it now, surrounded by men who wore masks with their smiles, made the moment bleed with tension. Cersei was composed, dressed in black with a crimson sash. Her eyes glinted with something far from sorrow. Renly Baratheon spoke first, suggesting Joffrey be crowned at once. Ned listened. When Littlefinger added his slippery support, Ned didn't flinch. He watched the room, gauging who would move first. The snakes were coiling, but this time Ned wasn't walking into the pit blind. Bran had told him about the forged document, how Cersei had replaced Robert's will with one naming Joffrey. Ned had brought the real will in a sealed box, delivered straight from Robert's deathbed, witnessed by Ser Barristan and signed in his final hours. And more than that, he carried a second weapon. He had proof, visions revealed in Bran's voice, confirmed by messages from loyalists placed in the Red Keep over the last moon. Servants bought with coin and honor, ravens redirected through Winterfell's watchful eyes. So when Ned stood and announced, Robert's will named Stannis Baratheon as his rightful heir, the silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. You dare? Cersei's voice cracked like a whip. Ned didn't raise his tone. I bring not only the king's last words, but the truth your family fears. He pulled out a scroll. Not Robert's will, Bran's record. A vision transcribed in detail. The boy Joffrey is not the king's son. Littlefinger's smirk faded. Varys's eyes twitched. Cersei leaned forward. Are we really pretending children's dreams are law now? They are not dreams, Ned said quietly. They are truths seen before they happen. Your son's blood is not Baratheon. You know it. Then slowly, deliberately, he opened a second scroll, an intercepted message written by Stark-Lannister, boasting of his role in Robert's hunting trip. A coded confession sent to his cousin. Bran had seen it carried by Raven, read it mid-flight. They intercepted it in the rookery. The room shifted. Silence turned uneasy. Sir Barristan stepped forward. The seal is Lancel's, and the hand is not Robert's. The foundation beneath the Lannisters cracked, but Cersei wasn't finished. And what will you do, Lord Stark? Shout magic into the court? Scrawl lies from a crippled boy across the throne room? The people will not believe you. And the boy sits the throne, Ned stood. Then let the gods decide. I will not draw my sword, but I will bring witnesses. Stannis comes with proof. And with him, eyes that have seen more than any man alive. He left them in the chamber, their whispers trailing like ghosts. That night, Ned moved quietly. He ordered loyal men to stand ready. He met with Arya in secret, gave her a coin and whispered, If I fall, you run. You find the north. You find Jon. Bran back in Winterfell writhed in restless sleep. His dreams were darker now. He saw wildfire hidden beneath the city. He saw Pycelle whispering to the pyromancers. He saw gold cloaks turning red. He saw Littlefinger handing out coins in alleyways. He told Robb everything. And Robb, young, untested, made a choice that would change the game. He rode south, but not with banners, not with war. He came cloaked with a dozen riders sworn to secrecy, and a letter from Maester Luwin confirming Bran's visions as evidence, not just prophecy. Robb would stand beside his father, not with an army, but with knowledge. That was the new war. Meanwhile, Cersei acted. The gold cloaks moved the next morning. But Ned had already replaced the commanders. Janos Slynt had been quietly dismissed, arrested at dawn by Ser Jorah's men. The Lannister trap, planned weeks in advance, snapped shut on empty air. Cersei was escorted from the Red Keep, not with violence, but with evidence. Ned presented the king's will, Lancel's confession, and a sealed scroll from Pycelle himself. Bran had seen Pycelle trying to destroy it days before, but the boy's mind was faster than the old man's hands. The lords of the Narrow Sea, Renly, Stannis, even the cautious Mace Tyrell, were shown visions transcribed from Bran's mind. Names, dates, conversations no one could have overheard, except through a raven's eyes. The council didn't trust magic, but they feared it. They feared what Bran saw next. Daenerys Targaryen had crossed the sea, and she was not alone. 3 dragons now answered her call. Bran dreamed of fire raining on the Red Keep, of stone melting beneath flame, of a scream echoing through a throne room made of ash. Ned knew time was short. The Game of Thrones had changed, but the war was still coming. And this time the enemy wasn't just wearing gold, it had wings. Wearing gold, it had wings. Smoke drifted through Bran's dreams, not smoke from a hearth or forge, but smoke thick with screams, ash, and something deeper. Dragonfire. He saw the city again, a scorched ruin. The Iron Throne stood twisted and half-melted. Above it hovered a shadow too large to be human, wings spread wide. And in its heart, a woman, eyes silver, hair white, face filled with pain and fury. Daenerys. The dragons had come, not in myth, not in whispers, in fire. When he woke, Bran was drenched in sweat, eyes wide. He cried out for Maester Luwin. Send word to father, now. His voice didn't tremble like before. It rang with quiet certainty. She's crossed the sea. She brings fire with her. They won't stop her in time. Maester Luwin paled. But Daenerys has no ships. She doesn't need ships, Bran whispered. She has wind and flame. In King's Landing, Ned read the Raven's message alone in his chambers. His hands trembled not from fear, but from the unbearable weight of knowing. Everything had changed again. The Lannisters were dealt with. Cersei was under house arrest, Joffrey deposed, and Stannis on his way to the capital. But dragons were a different enemy. Not even honor could fight fire. He called Ser Davos, who had arrived the day before, bearing word of Stannis' arrival. "Tell your lord I will stand with him publicly," Ned said, "but privately. We must speak of the storm to come." Davos nodded. "You mean the girl?" "She's not a girl anymore," Ned said. "She's a Targaryen, and if the fire in my son's visions is real, she'll burn the 7 kingdoms to ash before anyone can crown themselves." Back in Winterfell, Bran continued to see more. His mind grew clearer with each vision, but also colder. The boy who once laughed with Arya, who ran through the halls chasing summer, was changing. The magic changed him. Every time he looked too deep, too far, he left part of himself behind. Robb saw it. "He barely sleeps now," he whispered to Maester Luwin. "He stares into the fire or the trees, and sometimes I think, he's not even here." "He's becoming something else," Luwin replied gravely. "Not just a boy with dreams, but something ancient." And still Bran watched. He watched as Daenerys landed in Dorne, not with an army but with dragons, 3 great beasts that shook the earth when they roared. The Martells, long hungry for revenge, bent the knee at once. They called her Fireborn Queen. Bran's warning reached Ned through a raven before any spy or scout could confirm it. The North now had the eyes of gods, and still, Westeros did not listen fast enough. At the small council, Stannis argued for immediate war. "She is a threat to the realm. We must strike before her dragons grow too bold." Ned replied coolly, "And where would you strike? You don't even know where she will fly next. My son does." "Your son," Stannis scoffed. "The crippled... Seer, you would plan strategy on the dreams of a child?" "Not dreams," Ned said. "Truth. You've already seen what he foresaw. You sit here because of him." Stannis said nothing. Daenerys moved quickly. The Reach trembled. The Tyrells tried to negotiate, but her dragons made poor diplomats. Villages burned in demonstrations. Food stores were taken for the people, and everywhere she went the small folk bowed, kissed her feet, and called her mother. But Bran saw deeper. He saw the flickers of madness, of loneliness. He saw the ghosts that whispered to her. Her brother's voice in her mind. Visions of the Red Keep as it once was, shining with her ancestors' legacy. A dream corrupted by fire. "She wants to fix it," Bran told Robb one night, "but she thinks burning it down is the only way to fix it." So Ned sent ravens to all corners. "Daenerys Targaryen is not your savior," he wrote. "She brings death with wings. If we do not stand united, she will burn us apart." The North answered first. Lords Manderly, Karstark, and Glover pledged their swords. The Vale, uncertain, waited. The Riverlands hesitated. But one by one messages returned, fearful, anxious, but clear. They would follow Ned Stark, not for politics, not for power, but because he had seen what others ignored, and so began the quiet war. Dragons swept over Old Town, Maesters scattered, Citadel scrolls turned to ash, knowledge thousands of years old gone in moments. Bran cried when he saw it. "She destroyed what could have saved us," he whispered. Meanwhile, Varys slipped away in the night. His last message to Ned read only, "Fire and blood leave no survivors. You must act before she reaches the capital." But how does one fight a queen with dragons when swords bounce off their scales and fire devours steel? The answer came from the north. Bran saw the answer, not in fire but in ice. Beyond the wall something stirred. Jon Snow, now Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, had seen strange signs. White walkers moving again, corpses walking. Bran reached for him, through ravens, through wolves, through dreams. He showed Jon the truth, showed him Daenerys, showed him the dragons and the death they would bring. Jon awoke in a cold sweat and wrote only 3 words to Ned. "I believe him." For the first time, fire and ice were not enemies, they were weapons. Ned called a secret council, not in the Red Keep, but in a ruined sept outside the city. Only a few were invited: Davos, Robb, Arya, Ser Barristan, Gendry, and Samwell Tarly, brought from the wall on Jon's command. Bran spoke through ravens perched on the stone. "There is a weapon beyond the wall," he told them, a secret buried in snow, a horn. Ned listened, silent. A horn. They called it the Horn of Winter. The first men sealed it away. The children of the forest warned it could break the wall or bind the dragons. They looked at each other. A myth, a legend, a last chance. Then we find it, Ned said, and the race began. While Daenerys marched north, burning fields and cities, Ned sent Arya beyond the wall, sent Sam with her, sent ravens to Jon, and, all across Westeros, rumors began to spread, not of dragons but of wolves who dreamed and secrets hidden in ice. The war was no longer for the throne. It was for the soul of the realm. Snow fell thick across the wall, muting the world into silence. But beneath that silence, something ancient stirred. Deep in the frozen wild beyond Eastwatch, Arya Stark rode with her hood drawn tight, a needle tucked under her cloak. Sam rode beside her, bundled like a bear, eyes darting. Neither spoke. The cold made speech a punishment. But worse than the cold was the knowledge of what they were chasing. The Horn of Winter, a myth, a fable, or perhaps the only hope left. Bran had shown Arya where to find it, in flashes, fragments. She saw herself standing before an ancient tree, half buried in ice, its bark blackened by time, its roots wrapped around bones. It's not just a horn, Bran had told her through the ravens. It's a key to bind dragons, to break them. He had warned her too, but others seek it. Not just us, and they weren't alone in that icy wilderness. Far to the west, White Walkers gathered. Not in a blind charge, not in madness, but with purpose. Bran had felt them turn, had seen their eyes shift. Their silence was no longer sleep. It was waiting for something, or someone. Jon Snow met Arya at the Frostfangs. His face was paler, older. Command had hardened him. "You're not a girl anymore," he said. She smirked. "Neither are you." There was no warmth in the hug that followed, just shared knowledge the world was dying. And dragons were only one kind of fire. Sam brought the scrolls. "The horn was last mentioned in the Black Book of Skagos," he said. "It was buried to keep balance between the flame and the cold. But if Daenerys takes the realm first..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Back in King's Landing, Ned stood at the gates of diplomacy, not in armor but in silence, watching. Daenerys had taken Harrenhal. Its towers still smoked. The river lords who resisted were crucified along the road. Her message was clear: kneel or burn. Stannis was furious. "We must strike now," he spat in council. "If we wait, we hand her the crown." But Ned raised a hand. "If we strike now, she brings the dragons south." He pointed to a raven perched on the sill. "And the boy says we don't yet hold the means to stop them," the lords muttered. Whispers filled the corners of the hall. Barristan Selmy stood slowly. "If the horn is real," he said, "then perhaps this is a war we win not with steel but with the old ways." The message was sent. Delay her. Distract her. Stall at all costs. So they sent emissaries. Promises of recognition. Talks of peace. And Daenerys, suspicious but curious, agreed to meet. Not in King's Landing, but at Dragonstone. Her ancestral home. Ned sent Robb. Not because he didn't trust others, but because he didn't trust himself. "You'll go as a wolf with no teeth," he told him. "But your eyes must be sharp. Look for her cracks. For the girl beneath the crown." Robb nodded, jaw tight. "And if I see only fire?" Ned looked away. "Then we run." Meanwhile, beyond the wall, Arya, Jon, and Sam found the cave. It was real. It was buried. The roots of a massive weirwood clung to a chamber of black ice. The cave whispered. Cold and strange, Arya stepped forward. Her breath caught. There it lay, the horn, carved from the bone of something not human, banded in dragonglass, wrapped in symbols that pulsed faintly. Jon reached for it and recoiled. "It's alive." Sam stepped forward. "It's waiting for someone." Bran spoke to them then through a falcon perched outside. "Blow it, and dragons come. Blow it again, and they kneel. Blow it a third time." "And the wall falls," Jon froze. "What?" "The wall was built to seal power, not just defend against it," Bran whispered. "This horn unbinds it all. The fire, the ice, the magic." Sam's face turned pale. "So if we use it?" "The White Walkers..." Bran didn't answer. Arya stepped forward. "We take it, but we don't use it. Not until we know." So they rode back, fast, hunted. The forest behind them grew colder. Something followed. Jon saw eyes in the trees. Not wolves, not men, but walkers watching, waiting. At Dragonstone, Robb met Daenerys. She stood before the great hall in black and red, her dragons circling the skies. Her eyes locked onto him like fire-seeking tinder. "You're Ned Stark's son," she said. "Your house betrayed my family once. Why should I speak with you?" Robb didn't flinch, because this isn't about the throne anymore. "It's about the world," she laughed. "The world will bend, or it will burn," he tried to reason. Told her of Bran, of visions, of winter's darkness returning. She listened, and her face changed. For a moment, her voice softened. "I see it too. In dreams, my child. He never sleeps, he burns. I feel fire when I close my eyes." Robb leaned forward. "You don't have to be your father's daughter. You can choose a different path." She studied him. For a moment, silence. Then a dragon roared above, and her face turned hard. "We'll speak again. In King's Landing." But in her chambers that night, Daenerys wept. She looked into the fire and saw her reflection, eyes wide, empty. She saw the Red Keep crumble. She saw a wolf standing on a mountain of ice, horn in hand. And she screamed. In Winterfell, Bran fell into a deep trance. His body froze, eyes white. Lewyn panicked, tried to wake him, but it was no use. In his vision, Bran stood at the edge of the world. Fire on one side, ice on the other. The horn between. He saw Daenerys kneel before the Iron Throne, and saw it melt in her hands. He saw Jon blow the horn. Once, twice. Then everything went white, and he woke up screaming. Winter had swallowed the north. Winds howled over Castle Black as Jon Snow stood at the wall, the horn of winter wrapped in thick leather in his arms. Every night since they'd found it, Bran's voice echoed in his mind, quiet but unrelenting. "It binds dragons, but it also wakes things that were meant to sleep." Jon had seen what Bran hadn't spoken aloud, what the boy had hidden even from himself. It wasn't just Daenerys they risked losing control of. It was the wall itself. The old magic that sealed it had grown brittle, cracked like frozen glass under pressure. And now, with one blow of the horn, they could break more than dragons. They could break the balance of life and death itself. Jon rode south, taking a route no raven could follow. With Arya, Sam, and Gendry, behind them the shadows of the dead began to stir, far from sight but not from sense. Bran could feel them. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard them whisper. He's waking them. He's drawing them in. The boy with no legs sees too much. In King's Landing, Ned Stark stood at the edge of a final decision. The city trembled. Daenerys had landed just outside the gates with her dragons. The sky burned crimson at dusk. Ash fell like snow. The people gathered in silence. They had heard of the horn. They didn't know if it was salvation or damnation. Stannis stood firm. "We don't kneel to fire," Robb pleaded. "She's not what she was." I looked in her eyes. "She's breaking." Davos said nothing. He simply looked to Ned. "You're the only one she'll still listen to." So Ned rode out alone. The gates of the city groaned shut behind him. Before him stood Drogon, wings spread, eyes glowing. Beside the beast stood Daenerys, pale, burning from within. She looked more Targaryen than ever, more dragon than queen. "You came to bend the knee?" she asked. "I came to give you a choice," Ned said, "because this is still your realm if you want it to be." She laughed bitterly. "This realm murdered my family, burned my home, sold me, raped me, fed me to fire, and now you offer me a choice?" "No," Ned replied. "Bran does." That name stopped her cold. "You listen to visions of a crippled boy?" "I've listened," Ned said, "and he's been right every time." He saw Robert's death. He saw Joffrey's lie. He saw you, turning the Red Keep to ash. But he also saw something else. He opened the scroll slowly. He saw your child, the one you carry now, and he saw that you'll never hold him. "Not if this war continues." She said nothing, but her hands trembled. Back at the wall, Jon arrived. He stood before the black gate, the horn in his hand. Sam and Arya watched, breathless. "The dead are stirring," Arya whispered. "I can feel it." "In my bones," Jon didn't answer. He looked south. Then up, a raven landed on his shoulder. Bran's voice came again, clearer than ever. "Don't blow the horn." Sam blinked. "What?" "Not yet. Not until she chooses. She must make the choice." In Dragonstone, Daenerys stood before the flame, alone. She could feel something inside her twisting. Not madness, grief, fear, anger. She wanted to burn them all, to wipe away the pain with fire. But Bran's words haunted her. "Your child will die." She turned from the fire. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like a dragon. She felt like a girl again, scared, alone. In King's Landing, she met Ned again. "I will speak to your council," she said. "One chance, but if they raise swords, I raise fire." Ned nodded. "You'll have your audience." And so it came to pass. Daenerys Targaryen, Queen of Nothing, walked into the great hall of the Red Keep without her dragons. The room was full of lords, eyes narrow, hands twitching near blades. Bran spoke through a raven perched high in the rafters. "She brings not conquest, but warning." The room fell silent. He went on. "There is something beyond the wall that has awakened. The dead walk again. And if we divide now, the living will fall." Some scoffed. Some listened. But then Bran gave them one more vision, one they could not ignore. Every soul in that chamber saw it. Not in their minds, but in their bones. The sky darkened. The wall cracked. The dead surged forth, not to conquer, but to consume. And behind them, something older than fire or ice. Something that had no name. And just like that, the Game of Thrones ended. A new war began. Daenerys turned to Ned. "If I stand with you, if I help unite the realm." "I want peace after," Ned nodded. "So do we all." Jon arrived the next day. He carried the horn. He placed it on the throne room steps. "No one blows this," he said. "Not unless the end is here." And for now it wasn't. Bran's eyes opened in Winterfell. He smiled faintly. They chose. Sam began writing the tale, calling it The Hour of the Horn. Arya left the city at dawn, sailing west. Robb returned north with Jon. Daenerys walked the streets of King's Landing without fear, for the first time. And Ned stood at the foot of the throne. He looked at the iron, cold and ugly, and he turned away. The crown was never the prize the realm was, and for the first time in a generation, someone had chosen to save it. Someone had chosen to save it.